Welcome, everyone. This is our monthly, well, we skipped it in December, I think, but mostly our monthly product update meeting for all our users. We sent out, I want to say up front that we sent out an invite to this meeting announcing some new exciting stuff around client and matter UIs that we're working on and that we will be launching soon. We thought we were going to be a little further ahead with that. To be perfectly open with you, we changed the topic slightly to be more a walkthrough of all the different client matter features and workflows we have in LeanLaw. And then we will also be showing a preview of what we announced, a new UI for managing client and matters and workflows and so on. So I'm just sort of saying up front here that some of the announcements for this meeting is going to be a slightly different topic here. But I think it still be very useful, even for experienced users. We're going to walk through in some depth what the clients and matters set up and options. And there's been a lot of little changes that you might have missed that we'll go through. So I think it'll be useful for you nevertheless. Chase, anything to add to that before we get going?
I just want to quickly say there, like Fred said, there's a lot of little things we've added or changed, settings, little tweaks and updates that people have asked for, and we've gone and added, but they're not the main focus or big enough to, send you guys emails about like, hey, we added things to the quick create dropdown. But a lot of those small things we will be talking about today. So keep your eyes peeled.
So Chase will kick us off with a walkthrough, and then I will follow up after him with showing some of the new stuff we're working on. During this, we encourage you to ask questions in the chat and the QA. We'll keep an eye there. We'll try to get to most of your questions here, but if we don't, we certainly if we don't get to your question, we'll for sure follow up independently. So don't fret if you don't if you don't get a question answered. We'll follow up later. And maybe this is also a good chance to just remind everyone, new and long-time users of LeanLaw, anytime if you have questions or issues or ideas, please click the chat button in the product, and we're there to listen and help out. So that's always an option for you. All right, Chase, let's get going.
Let me share my screen real quick. Hopefully it cooperates today. Let's see, Fred, how's it look?
Looks great.
Well, it's doing that same thing yesterday where it blinks on me a bunch. So you might need to actually share your screen if it doesn't quit it here in a second.
I apologize.
I think we're good, actually.
Introduced ourselves a little more. We've done these a few times, but for any new users, I'm Fred Willerup. I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders of LeanLaw, responsible for product development. So some of this is my fault. and Chase is head of customer success, and you should be familiar with him. Some of you from all the help he gives you if you need it. So anyway, keep going.
Okay, sweet. So let's get started here. So like Fred introduced, we are focusing on clients and matters today. And we'll start actually with some of the things we've added to the create matter workflow. So you're all familiar with this page here. We're on the matters tab in LeanLaw, and then the green create matter button here on the left. Go ahead and click that. Okay, so there's a couple of things here I want to run through real quick. You're familiar with, adding a client or selecting one from the dropdown, name, selecting the billing type, but we have added newly within the last couple of months the ability to set the responsible and the originating attorney to the matter creation window. So you're able to set those in addition to practice area without needing to open up the matter and change those later on. And Fred, I do believe the requiring the originating is now a setting, actually. This is not enabled by default.
Yes, there's an option to require an originating attorney on all your matters.
So for the firms out there that use the originating and responsible for revenue allocation, for example, going to want to take a look at these, especially if you're interested in starting to build out or make those reports more detailed. Sweet. And actually, since we're here, that's a good time to talk about some of the things we've added to the quick create dropdown up top here. So we've gotten a lot of requests to add the ability to add clients and matters from the quick create dropdown, as well as adding a fixed fee. That's been a long-standing request from a bunch of our users here. And we were actually able to get that added. So you're now able to add those directly from the quick create option. There we go, just like that. Great. So let's dive in and take a look at what we've changed on the matter details specifically. So we'll open up one here then as an example. Click onto the general tab. Now this is one that we've already created. This is one that we use for demo purposes. So the information's already been filled in. Let's take a look. So like we saw earlier, practice area, you're now able to set that on a per matter basis. And actually you're now able to jump directly to the practice area settings from within a matter. If we click the gear icon here, that takes us over to our list of practice areas where we're able to create new ones like so, as well as the setting down here that will require a practice area on all matters. That way, your reporting is, a lot of that steps to get accurate reporting is done as you go through the process, and you don't have to go back and fill that information in later. Actually, we want this one. Perfect. Okay. So practice area, you'll notice here we've got two fields called one claim number and one named new name. Now these are custom fields in LeanLaw. This is something that many of you might have started to use already, but sometimes there's fields that LeanLaw doesn't already have an existing area for you to put. I like to use the example of a birthday, but here we've used things like claim number or if someone has an alternate name. You're able to add those, again, settings. We'll take a quick field trip here up to our settings in LeanLaw. And then firm info, where you're able to set those custom field names, like so. Fred, any comments on those two yet?
I want to, in terms of custom fields, there's more here. We also covered QuickBooks Advanced custom fields in our last meetup. These are pro only features, and we are working on exposing more of the QuickBooks Advanced custom fields in here so that they will appear directly in here, and that you know, if you mark a client with a certain field in here, it'll translate all the way through to QuickBooks. So more to come here on custom fields is really what I wanted to flag.
Yeah, that's actually a super exciting feature that we're now able to expand what we're able to sync across to QuickBooks for invoicing purposes, for reporting, and for customer or client details, being able to sync way more information back and forth between the two. So super exciting to see what Fred and the team will have coming up for us there. Originating attorneys, we're actually going to touch on a little bit later. This is where you would currently set them, but we're actually going to be moving that in short order. So don't get too comfortable with that there. Popping over to the right-hand side of the window, we've got the conflict check data. Now the conflict check data here on the matter, nothing has really changed. It's all the same information. But what has changed is a couple of features related to the actual conflict check itself. So let's go take a look at that. And we run that from the matters page here, and then the conflict check button on the left-hand side. Go ahead and type that in, search a name, look for Fred, see if we've got any hits, and we do actually. So now the conflict check actually has the ability to pull up more information here. Great. But also, you're now able to print and save the conflict check. So you're able to say, hey, as of this date, we ran the check and this is what we saw. Let's click that. Probably not able to see that, but I've got the print preview from Firefox showing there, and I would be able to print that out. So you'll also notice that we have the ability to search time entries. Now, I do believe that is something you need to request, as it is quite an intensive search, but that is an option if the firm would like to check through and run a conflict check against all available time entries.
Well, you don't need to request it. It's just a separate button you push. So it's not something you have to have enabled. But yeah, it's a separate function to search for time entries, because it's so just be aware of that.
And actually, it looks like you've added the ability to open up the specific matter from within the conflict check as well. That's cool. I like that. All right, let's pop back in. So that's just about it for the general tab here. You will notice the archive matter. We have changed or added an extra option here, and this is for a bunch of the dropdowns within the matter. You're now able to perform actions for all matters for a client. So if we're adding a user to a matter, if we're archiving a matter, you're now able to save those changes for all matters across the client. So super useful if you've got a lot of clients, or excuse me, a lot of matters underneath a single client, and you need to get some of that bulk work done. Okay, pop over to billing and rates here. So let's take a quick look at the different types of billing. So most of you are going to be quite familiar with hourly billing. That's pretty typical. Enter your time, bill the time. But we also have the ability now to bill contingency type cases. And Fred, do you want to explain a little bit about what we offer with contingency, or what changes?
Well, I think some of our listeners might not be familiar with, I don't think I would focus as much what we changed here necessarily, but what we have here. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the type of billing, we have different billing types, and they affect the system in different ways here. What we want to get across here is like how they affect it. And if you click the selection, you can see a little summary there below of what changes. The biggest difference between the different billing types is really how time entries are handled. So for hourly, your time entries are going to be billable by default. For contingency, they're also going to be billable by default, but there's some other considerations. For fixed fee, time entries are non-billable by default. For pro bono, they're also non-billable by default. And internal, there's not even a billable option. So that's just kind of the one parameter that we need to know when we pick type of billing. Now for contingency, when you pick that, you can see there's a contingency fee option and an expense interest option. So those affect some reporting we have, and once you have a contingency matter, there's some reports that open up that are useful. We can go into more detail there, but at the high level, that's really what this matter type does. The biggest thing that confuses people the most is the fixed fee and hourly. If you can charge a fixed fee in an hourly matter. So the key thing, whether you mark it hourly or fixed fee, is really what you want the default to be for time entries. Should they be billable by default or not? You can still add fixed fees to an hourly matter or to a fixed fee matter. That can be a little confusing. So anyway, sorry for the long rant here, but we can dive more into contingency if you'd like. But at a high level, I think that's that kind of summarizes it.
Perfect. So since we're here, I actually do want to talk about two other things that have changed. You'll notice up top we have the responsible attorney selected, and in this case, it's Frederick Taylor. but you're now able to change that from the billing and rates tab itself. So you'll notice the triple dots next to each user's name. If we click that, it gives us a couple of options. Top one, we're able to make responsible. So if we needed to change Frederick Taylor as the responsible and replace that with myself, we could do that. Or if we actually needed to remove them entirely from the matter, we can do that with the other option beneath. So remove from matter. And again, all of these changes, we can actually save for all matters for the specific client, like I mentioned before with archiving. The add users functioning just the same, as well as the restrict access to just these users.
Yeah, and I want to add here that the way now to mark who's the originating attorney on a matter is with the checkbox over there. You can pick one or more originating attorneys and then save it. You used to set that over on the general tab, but that's moved to here. So just in case you're wondering where that went.
Yep. Perfect. Let's jump over to fixed fees, actually. Oops. That's another thing we've changed. So we were getting a lot of feedback that sometimes people were not sure when changes were made or saved on their matters. And so we now require that you click the Save Changes option before navigating to a different page. That way, any work that you've done isn't lost if you accidentally click off to something else. Go ahead and cancel because we don't actually want to make any changes. Fixed fees. Okay, great. So like Fred was saying, you don't need to have the billing type set to fixed fee or as a fixed fee matter in order to create fixed fees. There's lots of firms that will bill fixed fees or flat fees as part of an hourly agreement. So starting with adding a fixed fee, that's pretty easy. The green add a fixed fee button on the left here. Pretty similar dialogue to as if we were creating a time entry or an expense. I do want to mention actually the hour limit at the bottom. This is probably my favorite part of fixed fees. You're able to set an hour limit on the fixed fee. So as you track time against the fee, say 5 hours, once you pass or surpass that time limit that you've set, the matter, or rather you will start charging an hourly rate in addition to the fixed fee. So if you find yourself spending way more time on a fee than you thought you had, you're able to set an hour limit like so. You'll also notice in the top right here, we've got the revenue allocation. This is something new and actually has some pretty significant reporting implications if you decide to use it. And Fred, do you want to highlight real quick what's going on with revenue allocation?
Yeah, this might be an entire topic on its own, but the revenue by attorney report. Maybe if you can flick over to that real quick. This is a really critical report for many of our clients that basically takes all of the collected revenue for a given time period and splits it out to individual attorneys based on what they worked on and on origination fees and other parameters that you can set. And what you just showed was a feature we've added where you can control whether a fixed fee on an invoice, let's say you have a $10,000 fixed fee that you put on an invoice, you can now allocate that to multiple attorneys for the purposes of this report and ultimately for compensation down the road for those attorneys. The revenue by attorney report and all the options in here is a big topic. If you're not using this and this sounds interesting, reach out. It's very configurable, but also maybe a little complex to fully grasp. But you know, I think it's very valuable for many firms.
Great. And actually, since we're here, I do want to point out, you'll notice the non-attorney revenue or unallocated revenue. So this happens or builds when a user is not assigned to an expense or a fixed fee. And that was something that we were hearing from firms that was causing difficulty. And we've actually added a setting that now requires a user be included on a fixed fee in order to save it. So you'll notice I quickly jumped over to our settings, and then underneath firm info, there is a require user on fixed fee. So to help mitigate some of those unallocated fees.
Yeah, and just above there, there's the other option to require an originating attorney. This is also has reporting implication on the page we were just looking at. So many firms would require both here to be checked. We had a question in the chat about, well, a note basically saying, hey, we should do a webinar entirely on matter billing types. I think the message there is that it feels like a big topic and it's complicated. So yeah, we might consider that. So thank you for that suggestion.
And Katie, actually, there I do know of. There's an article that specifically talks about the ramifications or what the importance or value of each of those billing types is. So you might check that out. Let's jump back to where we were at before. Great. So we looked at this. Okay. And real quick, actually, so like most things in LeanLaw, you are able to click on the unbilled item to open it up and make changes. But you're also able to do it from the triple dots here on the right-hand side, both for editing the fixed fee itself and for revenue allocation. And something else that's changed that I didn't think about earlier, it's not uncommon to want to make changes to or revenue allocation for fixed fees that have already been billed. So that revenue allocation is still available on fees that have already been included on an invoice. So you're able to go back and retroactively change how that revenue is split up. Let's go to QuickBooks tab here. Fred, what does the lobbying checkbox mean? We saw that earlier.
Yeah, so the lobbying checkbox is another custom field. If you go back to the custom fields settings page, it's called custom checkbox name right there. If you set that to, if it's blank, you won't get that checkbox anywhere. If you set it, in this case, we set it to lobbying, but you can use anything here. A checkbox will show up on all time entries and expenses. And then you can do reporting on it. So you can see all the, for a month, you can see how much did we track a given month that had this checkbox checked, and how much did we track that didn't have it checked. And it's called lobbying here because that was one of the use cases that several firms were using this for. The lobbying firm checks their time entries based on whether the type of work they did was lobbying or not lobbying, and the reporting of that is important to them. But you can use it for anything to really sort of categorize time and expenses along a sort of binary, I guess, like in one bucket or the other type of categorization. So
let's go back to QuickBooks here. And actually, Fred, I'm going to go flip the lights. Can you really quickly talk about Evergreen? I know we talked about it in a previous webinar, but just as a brief overview, why did we add it and what does it do?
Absolutely. So under QuickBooks, we have these options. Chase will go through some of them in more detail. The trust account options, which are there if you have a trust account configured in your account, has the option to specify an evergreen amount. And if you specify it, the messages on invoice, the trust account message on invoices will change, so that the amount that you're asked to pay is the amount up to the evergreen amount for the trust account. So it's basically like a minimum amount, minimum balance that you'd like that client to have in their trust account, and it affects some messages we put on invoices. and it also affects some reporting where we, in the trust account report, we show, if clients are sort of underwater when it comes to their evergreen or not, and so you can use this here.
Perfect. So a great way to help maintain a trust balance with clients in an automated way. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room for this page, at least, which is client versus matter accounting. Now, this is something we get asked about this one a lot, and it gets real tricky real quick if you don't know what you're getting into. So let's start with client accounting, because that's the most basic and what most of you probably are already using. In short, client versus matter accounting is where you want AR and trust associated. Would you prefer it tracked at the matter level, so at the top level, or would you prefer that tracked at the matter level beneath, or as a sub-account QuickBooks calls them? At a high level, that's what it is, right? Which level do you track it out? Now, certain jurisdictions, certain states, and even certain countries require different levels of accounting, especially when it comes to trust, because if you need those trust balances for each matter to remain independent, so that you can't pay one matter's trust or one matter's account balance with another matter's trust, you would need to have that set up as matter-based accounting. So in short, as briefly as possible, do you want AR and trust tracked at the client level, so all of the matters are shared, or do you want it tracked per matter individually? And I do want to mention, depending on what you set here, does affect how the accounting in QuickBooks happens. So if you select client accounting, the client there's not multiple accounts created in QuickBooks for invoices, and likewise trust. But if you do matter, you'll see a separate sub account and separate liability account created for each matter.
Just to add to that, if new clients here, you want to talk to your accountant and get on the same page of what you should pick here. I think most of our clients have a default that they go with. They either, in general, will do all client accounting or all matter accounting, and then there'll be some exceptions. But it has a huge accounting implication. So make sure you involve your accountant there. Also, this option is a pro-only feature. So if you have core product, you are blessed to not have to worry about this complexity. That's a positive way of looking at it. So that's just a few things I wanted to add. There's also a follow-up question about Evergreen that I wanted to answer real quick. If you can go to the setup page, Chase, for trust. There's a question about how do you, I don't have an evergreen button. Well, it is, you need to enable it over. You need to have trust set up first of all, and then it needs to be enabled right there. So you click that checkbox, click save, and then now under each client, that evergreen box should appear. Another question was if we can do notices if the evergreen amount goes below, or if the trust amount is less than the evergreen amount. We don't have sort of active notices to the client or to users, but if you go to the trust report, right there, you can see it quite clearly here, which ones are above or below, and there's a checkbox on the left called below evergreen or named right there. So this will quickly get you all the ones that should demand some attention. I like the idea of having more of a notification, but that's not an option at this moment. Great question.
Real quick, yes, it is available in Canada. Unless Fred, you have other information there.
No, yeah, the question was actually, is this option available in Canada? I think the reason you're not seeing it is because that checkbox is probably not checked. I should have clarified that.
Okay. Good to know for all of our friends in Canada. Okay, so we talked about client accounting. We talked about Evergreen. let's chat real quick about invoice delivery. So previously, once you sent that invoice to QuickBooks, you'd have to receive payment in QuickBooks and actually deliver that invoice through QuickBooks as well, whether you're printing it or emailing it. Now in LeanLaw, you're actually able to deliver the invoice, whether you're printing or emailing, and you're able to set the preference on a per matter basis. So you'll notice here we've got the invoice delivery set to email. So anytime we click the deliver button over in the billing section of LeanLaw, LeanLaw is going to automatically, based on what we set up in QuickBooks, so email formatting, the like, LeanLaw is going to automatically trigger that email to go out. So you actually no longer have to leave LeanLaw to deliver those invoices. The default here actually is set at the firm level. So you're able to say, hey, unless otherwise specified, I want all of my matters to be email or print, whichever is more dominant, or you can set it individually per matter.
And this option actually comes from QuickBooks, but maybe this is going a little too detailed. But you actually set the default for the firm in QuickBooks, and then it's shown here and can be overridden here. Anyway, carry on.
Good to note, actually, so you don't end up looking through the settings in LeanLaw trying to figure out where in the world this setting is. That is in QuickBooks. Last thing here actually is the billing information at the bottom. So sometimes you will want to bill or send that invoice to someone who is not the client, the information you specified over in LeanLaw. And you're actually able to do that here with the override billing email and billing address. So you're able to fill out some alternate information about who you're sending that invoice to. Go ahead and close out of there. Great. Let's pop over to leads real quick. And I know this is kind of niche. Some firms have no idea what it is. Others absolutely know what it is. As in brief, leads is a billing format. Fred, if I'm correct on that, billing systems require you to upload in the specific format. So instead of being a nice PDF with colors and everything laid out precisely for humans to read, this is meant to be more of something you upload to a software system to be processed by a client or a different individual for billing purposes. So, and typically this information, a lot of this information is provided by the client or the system you're uploading to, specifically a lot of the IDs or what they require, like format.
And just a quick note here, we added recently a new format. Oh, it's not in this account. It's,
not here.
It's not fully released yet, but there's a format called LSS that we added. In general, we get a few requests around here. There's some codes that are missing or a format even, and questions around which fields go where and so on. Reach out if you can't get leads working, and we are always able to get it going at somehow, and add missing codes and so on and so forth. So
great. Close out of here, and the last stop is actually the client tab. And surprisingly, not a lot has changed here. Really, the only thing that comes to mind that I'm aware of is the requirement to save changes before clicking away. So you'll notice that pop up again. Fred, is there anything on the client that you can think of that the team?
Well, we added the notes field. I wouldn't say it's recent, within the last 6 months. This as you'll see when I do a demo on some of the newer stuff, we'd like, this is not in a very good spot. It's kind of hidden here. We'd like to make this more prominent so that you can actually use it. But anyway, that's just a spot for notes.
Great. I think that's just about everything I wanted to cover here. Looks like we've got a question. Thanking us for the ability to bulk download leads files. So thank you, Fred and team, for that.
There's a question about the notes, whether it's the same one as the general tab, and the answer is no. These notes are assigned to the client, and the notes on the general tab are assigned to each matter. So they're actually separate buckets. But so Chase, I think one sort of big area you skipped over, maybe deliberately, was rates. Can you kind of do a once over with rates?
Yeah,
It's another
absolutely.
one that might warrant its own webinar, but
I could
please.
absolutely talk about rates for a half hour and answering specific questions on implementation. So like like Fred pointed out, I did skip over rates on the billing and rates tab. You'll notice, so each line here for the user, they've got whether or not, or, what their name is, their role, but also the rate. So you'll notice I actually don't have any extra rates, but Frederick up here has a whole host of them. So the idea is you create these rates over in settings, which we'll look at in just a second, and then you're able to select those on a per matter basis. So we're setting up matters for Frederick. We know, hey, all of his matters for this client need to be the Boise Public School litigation rate. That way, whenever he tracks time, it will by default go to this rate that we have preset. Let's go take a look at where we set those. And of course, can't forget the changes. There we go. Okay. So to change rates for yourself, that's going to be in the My Rates section of your settings. You've got your standard rate, which is the default rate that time or matters will default to if you haven't specified something else. But you're also able to add non-standard rates. So if you have rates for specific clients, discounted rates, you're able to set those or create them here. Then later you can set those as the default for different matters. Now, say you're in more of an administrative role and you need to change or update rates for one of your users in the firm. Can't do that on the My Rates tab, which is why we're going to drop down to the users section of settings. Open up myself here. Now, for anyone who's familiar with the users section of LeanLaw, you're going to know what this is. But the update rates option here in the middle of the user profile, again, the way we got there was opening up a specific user and then update rates like so. So from here, you're actually able to add or change those rates just like we saw in My Rates, but now for anyone else in the firm. So say, January 2021, we need to go through and update a couple of the standard rates. We see a 10% increase every year. You'd be able to go through one by one on each of these and go ahead and update that rate. Now, when you change a rate, LeanLaw gives you a couple of options about what you'd like to actually change, right? Do you want to change everything moving forward? Do you want to change everything that hasn't been billed? Do you want to change everything? That's what those options here are highlighting. So the top one, do we want to keep the rate for existing matters? So do we not want to change anything that we had previously on matters? Do we want to change matters, but not retroactively update the time entries that have those rates? Or do we just want to change everything? And I'm going to go ahead and cancel here. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to add something here. So we've had some requests here to better be able to manage rates, specifically around different roles. So I might have a rate for all my paralegals that's a certain amount, or several different rates for paralegal work that run across, that's sort of independent of users, maybe tied to their role or whatever. We're in the process of adding more control here so that you can do that, and also more easily, like if you go back to the matter, Chase, that would allow you to more easily, instead of having to change the rates like for each individual user, like which can be quite annoying if you have a lot of users, that we can do it more across all users. Like just say, hey, all here is where I want to use the friends and family rate, and then it applies to across all users that labeled rate. And also in terms of rates, we've had some issues with the updating of rates and applying rates to different time periods. So we go into 2021. I want to keep the rates for 20 matters previously until a certain date. I want a new rate, after a certain date. That's been that's a little fiddly to kind of accomplish currently. And we're also thinking about adding some date control on rates. So this is, I can't give a time frame on all this, but it's definitely, it's not a year out. It's more, we're more talking a month or two, and you should get some more options on rates. So if you have some specific requirements here, or some things that you'd love, then let us know, so we can factor that in when we have the hood open, so to speak, on in one of these areas. It's easier for us to kind of include ideas than maybe sort of when we are in the middle of doing something entirely different. So so please just let us know if you have ideas or requirements around rates. So appreciate your feedback there.
So Nancy has provided us with a fantastic segue into what we want to talk about next. Her question: are we able to see the date of the last payment made? Fred, do you want to show what we've been working on?
Yeah. So let me.
I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Let me share my screen here. Thank you, Chase, for that. So here we go. So you should now see my screen, I hope.
Yep, we do.
Okay, so so let me just give you a little background here. We've had some feedback over the last, honestly, years that it's very hard to find things in LeanLaw when it comes to, you know, I have a certain client. Let's say I'm going to call a client, and I want to get a sense of where we're at with that client. Well, I can go to time entries and I can look at the client. There they are. Okay, there's some activity here. I guess Frederick worked on it. I can uncheck this and see some more stuff. Expenses, I can see in reports. I can get a sense of, you know, does this client have any outstanding receivables? You kind of have to hunt around for information in here for a client or a matter. There is a little bit of a summary when you click into some reports. Like, let's say I click in here. We do get a little bit more of a summary. And this page actually is kind of hidden, but very useful. So if you're not familiar with this, this will probably be useful to you. You click into reports, and billable is one entry point. Pick the client over here, and now you get a summary of open time, of matters, expenses, users, and here's what was asked. You know, the trust, the last payment, account balance, and so on. And then you can go through and see the time entries, the expenses. And this in particular is pretty useful. Let me see if I can find some data here. A sort of combined list of all the billing activity, payments, invoices in a sort of chronological form. So you can see, okay, we sent them 2 invoices and we got some payment, but they look like they're a little behind. So, we've been working on fixing this, and I'm just going to show you kind of where we're at, and I'm doing this to maybe get you excited about what's coming, but also, you know, get any feedback you might have. We're beta testing this with some of you at the moment, so a very early preview here. We have now in this demo, instead of a matters tab, we have clients and matters. And when I click on that, you know, I can navigate. It looks a little different, but it's essentially the same page as you have today. A list of matters, all organized by ID and so on. You can also see now a list of clients here. You can look at this from a different perspective and just see the clients instead, which is what a lot of firms really want to look at. I want to look at the clients primarily and then drill into the matters. So this now gives you that option. So once I click in to a client, we now get this overview where we see a list of matters on the left that I can click into. So I can like go to each matter this way. But then under the client, I will see instead of sort of jumping straight into editing mode, which is how our current UI works, instead we're jumping into more of a data-centric view and trying to show sort of relevant information in here. So you can click through. So here's that billing activity again, invoices and payments that you can get from here instead of having to drill into reports. You can also jump into like reports from here, different reports, and kind of a quick link over to the reports for different time periods, so that you don't have to sort of fiddle around with filters over in the report section. And we also have a summary of kind of work in progress activity here by user. And all of this, once you drill into the matter, you can't see that right here, but there will be that same information just summarized by matter instead. So and there's a little bit of a fresher UI here with some little initials instead of names. We're trying to make it a little fresher. But the primary purpose is here is to kind of navigate in by client and see more of a client overview quickly, and then also inject data in here that's useful to you instead of kind of having to hunt around for that across the product. So there it is. It's a very fast, and a little incomplete demo here, but we hope to release this very soon in a beta form, and hopefully wider a little later. So if you are really excited about this, then let us know and we can include you. If you're like, I hope you're not looking at this and saying, oh no, this is all going to change. Where's my stuff going to be? You're still going to be able to find the same stuff in the same places. That the fixed fee tabs and rates and so on are going to be here just like they were before. So that's my sort of quick peek at that feature. I have one more topic, but I didn't look at the chat here.
It's actually a lot of people that are excited about this.
Okay, well that's good. Are there any specific questions that I can answer?
Yes. So actually some feature requests. So we've got Rich asking if we can add a from inception to the time periods under the data reports on clients. I'm going to guess that's based on the opening date.
From
when they were created.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's, how is that different from all time? I mean, all our filters allow you to say all time.
Well,
I'm not totally sure how that's different.
We'll wait for him to respond back. And Rich, actually, if you want to send us a message in the support chat, we can do a much better job of answering and doing that. He said yes.
Okay.
So yeah, Rich, send us a message and we'll chat back and forth. And
I wanted to mention something else which is related, but also quite different. On the topic of clients and matters, which has kind of been our theme today. We also have some initiatives that we're starting where we are, and this might get a little technical, but we're creating an API to our system to allow other systems to see clients and matters from LeanLaw. Maybe you know what that means. Maybe that was complete nonsense. What it means is that we're adding the ability for other systems to see clients and matters from LeanLaw, and so integrate better with your other systems. So if you might have a document management system, and so this is one of the sort of building blocks that would allow you to, when somebody creates a client or a matter in LeanLaw, that client would be created over in your document management system, maybe a folder structure or something. We have some specific systems that we're working with, but and it's a little too early to announce anything. I'm just mentioning here that this is another one big initiative we're going to be working on this year, to open LeanLaw more up and work better with your other applications, just like we feel we work really, really well with QuickBooks. We want to work well with other things in your sort of software toolbox. So that's another little sort of mini pre-announcement, I guess.
And Fred, real quick, we did get a question from Orson Paxton about if it's possible to show each payment and date on an invoice if more than one payment was made in the month. That's a great question. Invoices are created in we tell QuickBooks to create invoices, and so you can control what goes on there in QuickBooks. And there's an account summary option where you can add more information on the invoice, but I don't think they have an option to include a full payment history. That is a statement in QuickBooks, and so you would go to a statement in QuickBooks to create that. Now, this does not really answer your question very well. I mean, I guess what I'll say is that would be something that maybe we could look into adding as an attachment to invoices and so on. But right now, you have to go to a statement in QuickBooks to get this, and send that to a client independently. I think, I'm very familiar with QuickBooks, but there's some things like that I'm not actually the right person necessarily to answer. Did I get that right, Chase? I believe so. Yeah. This
Okay.
is it's kind of been a pain point because QuickBooks doesn't do it, and we haven't figured out a way to do it ourselves, aside from, like Fred mentioned, possibly adding that statement as an attachment to the invoice.
Right.
So I think that's it. Looks like we've got some enthusiasm for getting LeanLaw versions of QuickBooks statements.
Oh yeah. Well, I can add one more thing to that. We have had some requests to be able to send statements from LeanLaw. So you can go to QuickBooks, you can create a statement for a client, and off it goes. I don't remember if you can email it from QuickBooks, but you can definitely create it there and then email it maybe separately. Probably email it from QuickBooks too. We do want to do that from it, just like we've been adding controls that allow you to create payments in LeanLaw, as opposed to having to go to QuickBooks and do it, or email invoices. We are looking, this is not imminent, but probably more in a Q2, Q3 timeframe, that we're going to improve the billing workflow. And this is one of the big areas. Like, the specific scenario we hear a lot is, I'm sending a bunch of invoices each month. And so that invoice is essentially a reminder to the client of what they need to pay, or if they haven't paid the previous month, that will be included in the balance of that on that invoice. Now, what if I don't have a new invoice for a client that month? I need to send statements to those clients. That's what we'd like to automate better, so that you can basically, I won't guarantee it'll be a one click, but you can click somewhere and and all your invoices get emailed out, and statements for the clients that need them. That's kind of my hope, that it will be maybe even that easy. But
hopefully that answers your question, Nancy. I know you just asked that, and Fred kind of touched on what that would look like in the future. So Okay, Fred, we are just about out of time. So I think we're
Great.
good to go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's time, and we are recording this, so you can listen to this again. Or that will probably be painful, but you can have your colleagues listen to it if you think that that's useful. Let us know if you think some of this was not useful, or if it was, or you know, we're going to do these, or we are doing these regularly, and we're coming up with different topics. If you have a topic that you'd like us to cover in depth, or let us know, and that's probably going to be the next topic we'll do. So
seen a couple of requests come through.
Okay,
which is exciting.
I know we've covered kind of invoicing workflows. We've covered invoice presentation. We've covered trust accounting. Some things and now this. One thing we have not covered yet is sort of expenses and the different options we have for workflows there. Anyway, that's one idea. I'm sure there's many more. So.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. We will see you next month and hope to hear from you soon.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.